And I have my phone here in case I need to log on my phone. So from employee to independent worker. I want to thank Maxi, Business and Career Coaching, and Linked English, which are the two projects that I'm involved in right now that have enabled me to be traveling the world for 7 years. And it's lots of fun. So now I just want to invite you to visit my webpage. And when you get there, this is what you're going to see. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a digital nomad mother. That is Ollie when he was a little baby. Now he's 16 months. I founded Linked English and Maxi Career Coaching. And I talk about what I love, and you're going to visit there and you're going to see. So I talk about Linked English, which is an English school online that I have. Maxi Career Coaching, which is my business and executive coaching services. My podcast, there are almost 30 interviews there with people that are amazing. And let's get to business. So topics for this webinar for you to see if you're interested and you want to continue with us. First, I'm going to be asking you a bunch of powerful questions, and I'm going to share some interesting facts about the independent world work market. My job as a coach is to ask powerful questions to help you think. Number two, I'm going to tell you a short story of my personal journey, and I think that some of the things that I overcame would be interesting for you too. Three, I'm going to talk about advantages and disadvantages of being independent. Four, is this only for digital professions? A lot of people think that independency is only for people who can be digital, and it's not true. So lawyers, doctors, can be independent and can actually be digital too. I'm going to show you how many doctors are making $100,000 a year minimum being just digital and working from home. So we're going to break some barriers there. And then we're going to talk about the name. Some people don't know, should I call myself a founder, a contractor, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur? We're going to talk about the differences in names. And then the yummy part, the tools and strategies. This was the part where the students in ESADE in Barcelona, I did this presentation for them and they loved this part. And then I'm going to finish with some quotes of very successful people who have become independent, who used to work in the corporate world. And I'm going to tell you if they like being independent or if they didn't. And there are people in both groups there. So I want to start with this affirmative. Career independence is the future. If you are not independent, no matter where you are, no matter if you're an employee or not, there are big problems for you ahead. Companies only want to hire people who are independent and who can solve their problems, okay? So the first question I want to ask you is, can you acquire your own clients? This is something that even a doctor, a dentist, a social media person, you need to learn how to acquire your own clients. Some people have a partner to do that. I'm going to have to wear my glasses because I can't read very well anymore. I know there's a reflex, but sorry. So you need to learn your elevator pitch. You need to learn how to sell whatever it is that you have to sell, and everybody is selling something. Please give me a break. You need to do that in a minute. So if I ask you what you do, you have to make me curious in a minute. We're not going to talk about the pitch today. We can do a full webinar about the pitch. But use it to acquire your own clients if you want to be independent. If you want to acquire a new job, you need to have a pitch. So the sooner anyone demonstrates the ability to win and retain clients, the sooner you will take control in the new economy. So it's not about winning only, it's about retaining. Uber, Airbnb, Upwork, Fiverr allow anyone to feel the power of independence without having to sell. It's a first step, but it's not sustainable. So it's very easy to use these platforms like Uber, Fiverr. The other day, a coach, US coach I was talking to told me she's making $10,000 on Fiverr, and she started making like $500 the first week there. And it's great, but remember that you should use these tools in the beginning and learn with them and create your client base. But then you need to be independent with that customer base of yours, and you need to bring them to your own platform. because those platforms are not sustainable long term. You need to establish your rates little by little and make them higher as the number of clients grows, and own your client relationships. That's what I mean being independent as an employee. You can be an employee, but you can have an independent relationship with your clients. So if you leave that company tomorrow, you have your personal brand already developed. Are you an expert at what you do? If you're not an expert yet, I suggest you become one very fast. And you don't need an MBA or a PhD to become an expert. There are ways that doing a webinar on a subject means that you need to study that subject. It means that you need to read at least 3 books in that subject. And if you give public speeches for free for public schools in your neighborhood, little by little, you will become an expert at what you're talking about, because you will need to study that in order to do those presentations. And people will start knowing your name. Oh, that's the guy who gave the presentation. You can film your presentation and you can put your video on your social media. So becoming an expert is for anybody who wants to study and to put themselves out there. Leave the comfort zone. Independent professionals, my camera is covering. Independent professionals tend to be slightly older. And when I say older, I'm not only talking about age here, it's more about experience. And remember that younger people can have experience too. And better educated. And when I say better educated, I'm not talking about academic. I'm talking about reading and learning. More confident in the value of their skills and have higher incomes. So for you to be independent, you need to have experience. You need to know things about what you're selling. You need to have confidence in your skills for you to have those higher incomes. Can you transition in and out of different formats of work contracts? So I don't know if you noticed, but in the first slide I had from employee to independent worker, ellipses, those 3 little dots, means that it's a cycle. So this is one thing that if you forget everything else that we talked about here today, this is the only thing I want you to remember. You can go back and forth into employee and into independent, into employee and into independent. And that's okay. And that's actually interesting because you grow that muscle that allows you to go back in. So let's say you're going through a moment like mine right now. I'm a mother. And right now I don't really have energy or interest when I'm not working to be doing social media posts, to be doing podcast interviews, to be doing a bunch of webinars. So maybe it makes sense for me to get a 20-hour contract per week just to feel safer. And then I can work with my individual clients the rest of the time. So that gives me the muscle of signing contracts, bigger contracts. For 6 years, I worked just with one-to-one individual clients. But now as a mom, that doesn't make sense for me anymore. And I'm looking into bigger contracts as well. And maybe in the future, it's going to make sense for me to be a leader of a corporation again, for me to learn how the corporations are, because they're changing very fast. So I just want to renew and relearn things. So depending on the phase that you are, remember that it's okay to be employee again. And then it's okay to be independent again. Or maybe you can be both. That would be the perfect world. You can be an employee. Too bad that some countries like Brazil or Spain, it's harder for you to get contracts as an employee to work only 6 hours a day. But some countries are open to that. Or maybe you can work 8 hours as an employee and you can work 2 hours at home as an independent. Just to vary your sources of income and not depend entirely on that corporate salary. This is very dangerous. So make sure you can transition in and out of different formats of work contracts. Do yourself a favor. 51% of freelancers would not go back to traditional work for any amount of money, according to Upwork. So remember there's another 49% of freelancers that would go back. So those are some statistics there. The trend to contract employment is here to stay. A lot of companies are preferring to contract instead of hiring. So 80% of large corporations plan to substantially increase their use of a flexible workforce. That's why I'm telling people who have been employees for their whole lives, wake up, start your own gig on the side, because that's where the market is going. Try to sell yourself on the side and see if you can do it. Even if you're happy with your job, it's not going to hurt you. By 2020, which is now, 1 month from now, contingent workers will exceed 40% of the US workforce. 40%. That's almost half of the US. Dealing with constant change can be stressful, but it's also challenging and invigorating. So when you're independent and you're self-employed, of course, you have lots of stress. You have the stress of getting your own clients. You don't have that steady income, but you have other, stresses when you work in a corporate world. You have that drama and the gossip and the boss and, so it's just, stress is always going to be part of it. Can you vary your sources of income? We just talked about it. So make sure you can. If you have a big house and you have rooms to spare, rent them. If you have a car and you like driving, especially if you live in Spain, do BlaBlaCar when you travel to Madrid and take people with you. Just start testing different sources of income. I haven't used BlaBlaCar with my car because I don't want to have a car. So I don't have a car. I have a bicycle. And it's hard to do BlaBlaCar on a bicycle. And I would if I could. But I have been a customer of BlaBlaCar, and it's amazing how many clients I get in BlaBlaCar. So just open your mind to these new sources of income and networking. This is a really interesting chart because it shows you the self-employed numbers here. And I want to call your attention to this group. So you see that the biggest group here is the 45 to 54 years old. But then there's the green one, which is the 35 to 44. So the largest number of self-employed workers overall are aged 45 to 54, which is great news because these people in the old days used to be fired and then they get depressed and they don't have money in their, when they're older. Nowadays, the fashion is for you to become independent when you're around 40, 45, because we're going to live until we're 90. Until we're 100. It doesn't make sense for us to wait until our 60s to be retired anymore. So the sooner we can become independent, the more, the better at it. And, the more fun we're going to have later in life. I'm going to be working until I die for sure, because I love what I do. The most rapid increase has occurred in self-starters aged 65 and above. So look at that gray line, how it's growing fast. Are you open to learning? So Alvin Toffler said that the illiterate of the future are not those who cannot read and write, but are those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Repeat, learn, unlearn, it's harder than learning, and then relearn. Talk about unlearning here in Thailand in these co-workings. So many things that we learn, in our MBAs, and then you sit next to a 20-year-old and he sold his company for $100 million and you're asking him how he did it and everything different. He didn't accept any investment and, he didn't become a startup because he didn't want to get any investment. And I have so many stories. That's why I have the podcast. So check out the story, for example, of Ozzy. He has the biggest startup here in Thailand. He's the biggest employer of the Finnish people from Finland here. He has 220 people in his company. Such an interesting story. 78% of gig workers say they're happier than those working traditional jobs, while 68% say they're healthier. Of course, when you're an employee, you have to ask for permission to go to the doctor. And you're independent, you can go to the doctor whenever you want. You can wake up whenever you feel like it, as long as you do the work. It's healthier. Come on. I mean, maybe you have an amazing boss and your life is different. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people who are sad and hate their job and are looking at the clock, which unfortunately is 85% of our population. Do you prefer to be in charge? I do, but I would happily not be in charge if I had a boss who inspired me. I did have one once, but from the 3 jobs that I had, just one inspired me. Unfortunately, leadership is a big problem, right? And if you're a leader and listening to this, please let your people make decisions. Trust their decisions. 81% of full-time freelancers work as independents in order to be their own boss. That's how bad leadership is. People are escaping into independence a lot of times, not because they want to be independent, just because they can't have bosses anymore. Are you flexible? Are you okay with having a gig on the side? Are you okay with working at night or on the weekend? Are you okay with having different format contracts? Would you be okay of selling your services to your own company, but tell them like, I don't want to work as your employee anymore. Now I want to work as a contractor. The gig economy in the UK doubled in size between 2006 and 2019. Doubled the last 3 years. It now comprises 4.7 million workers, according to The Guardian. 1 in 10 working age adults are engaged in the gig economy. This is 10% of Spain. 20 to 30% of the workforce in the US and EU, this is 15 countries, involved in the gig economy, according to McKinsey. That's a total of 162 million working age people across the US and Europe engaged in some sort of non-traditional work. Wake up, people. If you're not on Fiverr or Upwork, do that today. Is this for you? Maybe it's not. It's definitely not for everybody. And that's okay. It's okay if it's not for people. Companies will always need people like you, if this is you who's not independent. What will you offer? A lot of people say, I want to be independent, but I don't know what to do. What will I offer? Well, that's what I help people on one-to-one, because we need to explore, your experiences. There are many exercises that we can do to see what you could offer. And the best way for you to know is to volunteer. Find institutions in your street, in your neighborhood, for you to go 2 hours a week and volunteer doing something. If you're a programmer, volunteer doing programming. Or if you don't want to do programming, volunteer teaching. Oh, but I've never taught before. Try it. Or public speaking. Or teach English online. Chinese schools are paying $25 an hour. I went through the recruitment process this past week just because I wanted to see how it is to recommend this as a transition income to many clients that hire me, and they just feel insecure, like, how am I going to pay my bills while I'm doing the transition? So let's do a transition income. What can you do just to pay the bills until you get what you want for you to quit the job if it's really a cancer in your life? So there are many things, many transition incomes that you can think of. Just a parenthesis here. Have you ever Googled remote job? Do it in English, of course, because in Portuguese or Spanish, it's going to be very limited. Remote job as, and then you put your expertise. And look how many remote jobs there are. Of course, you need to be fluent in English. And that's why I keep having the English school, because if you're not fluent in English, it's difficult for me to help you. Why is this important for you? Why is being independent important for you? And why is this important for others around you? Is it going to make your life better? Is it going to make your family life better? If you're independent, would you be able to travel like I do? Would you be able, like I lived in 7 countries in the last 7 years, and I plan to do so with my children until they're 6 or 7, because that's when they said, then I'll have to settle at least 8 months a year in the same country for them to have their friends in their class. Until then, being a digital nomad family is cheaper. It's amazing. It's so insightful, you know, waking up in Thailand, eating this amazing food for $1, and your family, your relationship would be better. So just think about those things. Try to inspire yourself to work those extra hours to build your thing on the side. How will you acquire new clients? How will you do that? Have you tested? Can you get your own client? Let's say you're a programmer, and let's say you're looking for a job, and you've been trying for 2 years and you can't. And you speak English. Have you tried getting remote jobs? Okay, I don't want to work remotely, Lamari. I like working around people. Working remotely, you're going to be around a bunch of people. There are 25 people in here right now in this co-working. So stop thinking that remote, you're going to be lonely. You don't have to be in your house. You can be outside. But go ahead and acquire a new client. You need to prove to yourself that you can do that before you quit your job. Not one, not two, maybe get 3 clients and get at least 50% of your income. Don't be crazy. Which new clients will you pick? Don't just, I always tell people, like, we go to a party, we're single. Do you go to the bar and you wait for the person to come and talk to you? Or do you look past your radar, find the person that you want, and you say, that's the person that I want to talk to tonight? So that's what you need to do. You need to make a list of the clients that you want. What are the companies that you want? Let's build a strategy to get to those companies instead of just making your LinkedIn amazing to see whoever's going to find you. No, much easier for you to attack 3 to 5 clients that you want. Who do you know that knows them? I can put in a good word for you. Let's go on the side. Could your employer be your client? This is really, really nice because a lot of people forget that their employer can be their first client. Would you feel okay of, maybe having this conversation with somebody like, if I decide next year to be independent, would there be space for me? You can pay me 20% less than what I make today. That's okay. And I'm going to work 20% fewer hours. Or maybe I'm going to work the same hours, but pay me less. Just let me be a contract and work from home if you can pay me less. Negotiate. It's just an idea. There are other things that you can negotiate. Who would you become solo? Close your eyes. Breathe. Imagine yourself working for yourself. Imagine yourself as your own brand. Calling people. How would you introduce yourself if you're not saying, hi, I work for Royal Bank of Canada? You are who you are. Would people talk to you? How do you present yourself? So these are some ideas for you to prepare yourself. List the professionals that you admire, who you should talk to. Make a list of 10 people that you admire professionally. Research your role in industry. Go on Google. Check what's out there, what kind of remote job there is, what kind of job postings there are. For example, project manager. Lots of companies are hiring project managers nowadays. This didn't even exist 10 years ago. And so if you take a course or a certification, and you get your certificate as a project manager, and put that together with your programming ability, then you're much more interesting because not only you're a programmer, you're a certified project manager. Now, you can not only program, but you can manage a team for them. You can take online courses to be a project manager and to get certified. Build your networks. How? Talk to who has done it before you. Right? So I don't think I included here, but I talked about it in my newsletter this month. Global business owners. I'm a volunteer there. They're not paying me anything, but it's like last time I checked, we were 650 members from more than 30 countries, and I can email them and text them and WhatsApp them automatically through the app. I only pay 500 euros per year to be part of it. There are a bunch of events in Sao Paulo. They get together in Emiliano Hotel. So it's nice people. and great networking, great networking. There are other clubs that you can join to network. Okay, this was me in Sao Paulo in my living room 7 years ago, right after I came back from my coaching company. I'm going to show you the picture later. So this is you right now, and I want you to think, what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst thing that can happen if you become independent? Oh, I'm not going to have money. I'm not going to have a salary. Well, like I said, test. Start something on the side. Do you have some savings, persistence, and patience? When would be the best time for you to start? Most companies hire in the beginning of the year or in the end of the year or right before summer. So depending on the country, this changes. Make sure you know when the companies that can contract you, those companies in your list, when are they able to contract? When will they have a budget? Would you offer your services per month or per project? This can make a huge difference in your professional life. Instead of selling yourself as a coach, for example, per month, you're going to sign a contract. You're going to say, I'm going to coach 10 of your employees for 6 months for 50,000 euros. This is the contract, right? Instead of trying to sell the hour. Depending on the client, you need to make sure you speak their language. If you're trying to sell yourself to corporate, they normally talk per year, for 6 months. Remember that. Could you build, train, and manage a team of freelancers? I have a team of 10 people that are working with me as freelancers, and I don't want to have employees again. I had employees for 15 years. I had 50 people in my team. I just don't want to do it anymore. I prefer freelancers that are independent. Everybody is independent. Everybody's happy. Everybody's remote. There are people in my team in Taiwan. There are people in Spain. There are people in Brazil. And they're great. And they can work in their PJs if they want to, because we don't have to do video all the time. Do you like selling yourself, or would you need a partner to do that? So we talked about this before. So this is my aha moment when I finished my coaching certificate. After I finished my MBA in Brazil, I decided I wanted to become a coach. And then I went to Vancouver and I took this amazing course. And unfortunately, they don't give me any commission. I've recommended more than 10 people to them. And then, of course, I started working when I was 18 at Berlitz, which is a company of global language for executives. That's how I started working with executives when I was 18. And then Must Idiomas was my language school for 15 years. Then I got tired of being a boss, of working 18 hours a day, and I just wanted to be an employee. So I got a job at Prudential Financial selling life insurances. What a challenge, what a training. If you sell life insurance, you can sell anything. Because before you sell life insurance, you need to kill people, because people believe they're forever living. And then I got tired of selling life insurances, and I went to work selling investment products in our Royal Bank of Canada. And I did that for 3 years. But then, like I said, leadership was terrible, never challenged me. And I, couldn't take it any longer. 3 years looking at the clock just to get paid. And I decided this is over. So I thought coaching, because I hired a coach. All the people that I admired had a coach. And I was like, wow, this is coaching? I want to do this. So I made my list of companies. So I'm recommending you do the same things I did. And LHH, which is a Swiss coaching company, multinational, was in my list. I wanted to work with them. And Jose Augusto, this guy who I actually interviewed in my podcast, is the president of LHH in Brazil. And I asked one of my MBA friends if they knew him, and one of them did. And I asked him to introduce me. So I'm telling you this story because this is how you need to do things. So you make that list of companies, you ask your friends who they know that works there. And then I sent him, my friend sent his secretary an email asking him if he would talk to me for 10 minutes. And the 10 minutes on the phone became 40. And then he recommended I go to this school and do my coaching certificate. And he said, when you come back, come and talk to me. But I came back a total different person 3 months later. And when I finished doing my online module, I opened my laptop and I was like, oh my God, I want to work remotely. So I learned how to work remotely, and I just was sick and tired of Brazil, and I just wanted to leave. And I kept thinking, why am I not doing this online? How can I do it online? Which platform? Who could be my clients? So I asked my 10 clients that I had at that time if they would do a free session with me online, and 7 of them decided to continue online. So you're going to have to go through this challenge of asking yourself this and risking. But I ended voting for freedom. I got a job proposal from LHH, and I really love LHH and the work they do at José Augusto, but I voted for freedom. So I decided to say no to their job proposal, and I decided to go online solo. And it was hard in the beginning, but I always had different sources of income, like I said. So I had the English students and I have the career coaching clients. Sometimes I have fewer clients, and then here and I have more there. And I rented houses with 4 bedrooms, and I would sublet 2 or 3 to interesting people that I thought I could learn from. So I was always diversifying my income. What is freedom for you? Freedom for me is traveling, but maybe freedom for you is just staying at home, working from home, being your own boss. Not having employees is a way of having freedom. Picking your own clients, being location independent, having flexible hours, no corporate drama, choosing a new country, traveling more often. What is freedom for you? This was my first flyer, and I was selling online career coaching, online language coaching. This is how I started. I changed my logo many times. I changed my flyers, but I did it myself. And these are my logos nowadays. So you need a logo to be independent. You need to have your brand. So this is fun. This is interesting. I have people who can help you, and they're great and they're not expensive. Or you can do your own using Canva. So then I started my journey. This is in Montreal with my students. I'm not going to talk about myself very much, but I started making like $800 in the first month in Montreal just using meetup.com. So if you don't use Meetup, first I offered my service for free, and they came and they loved it and they asked for more. And I said, okay, for the second hour, I'm going to charge $5 from each of you. And I was having 20, 25 people come. So I was making like $100 an hour just through Meetup. And that's me in the US, and that's me in Barcelona, and that's me in Thailand. And I didn't even know this digital nomad thing existed. I just kept looking for a new country for me. And when the visa was up, it was time to change, and then massage with the best, people in the world here in Thailand. And those are the clients that I started working online with. And I only met them a year later in this event I did in Sao Paulo. And that's when I found Valencia, which is my home at least 6 months a year. And biking in Valencia makes me so happy, and that is freedom for me. Living in a city where I can bike. So advantages: no corporate drama, no gossip, no politics, flexible hours, being with your family more. A lot of mothers want to be independent so they can be closer to their children. Freedom to make decisions. Too bad, like I said, leadership nowadays don't let people make decisions. Choose projects and clients, have employees or not, decide where you want to work, try different cultures. Maybe you don't want to be in the country where you are. Having no boss, see how that works for you. I create my own bosses. So you need to have a coach, or you need to have a friend or a mastermind group if you don't have a boss, if you don't have discipline. Expand your horizons, work in different organizations, exposure to different industries. Don't work always for the same industry. Disadvantages: no salary, no sick leave. You get sick, you better have an insurance. I do. No bonus. Oh, that insurance is an important topic when you're self-employed. No bonus. Sometimes I miss my bonuses. So sometimes I feel like, maybe I want to go back to being an employee just to get some bonuses. Do everything yourself. You're the sales, you're the marketing, you're the operations, you're the human resources, you're everybody. I mean, when you have enough money, you can start hiring freelancers to help you. But in the beginning, you're everybody. Extra discipline, loneliness. Do you feel lonely easily? Maybe it's not for you. I heard from a client that she wanted to go back to being an employee because she missed being invited for the Christmas party. The contractors are not invited for the Christmas party. And she felt lonely. That is something to consider. You feel more part of a team when you're an employee, right? I don't know. Maybe you can make that team spirit as a solopreneur too. You have to pay for your transportation, pay for your learning, pay for the co-working, pay for the insurances, pay for the taxes. Make sure you calculate all those things. No multinational brand backing you up. Start everything from zero. But here I am 7 years later, and I love it. And there are moments that you don't make any money, but if you exercise that muscle, again, you know you have it. You know you can do it. Is this only for digital professionals, like I said? No. Lawyers, architects, doctors, and engineers. Just try Googling telemedicine and see the work that there is for digital doctors. Lots of doctors tired of hospitals and they just want to work from home. There's a bunch of work out there. Well, maybe you're in the wrong country. If you're a doctor and if your country doesn't offer that, maybe you want to do what I did and you want to change countries. And don't tell me, oh, I can't go because of visa, because there's always a solution. We should do a webinar just to talk about how to get visas, but trust me, I got a visa because I had a baby in Spain. But I could have had a visa if I had a boyfriend in Spain who made more than 1,000 euros. That's not easy. That's not hard to find, right? Here in Thailand, there are lots of different kinds of visas. Every country has their solution. Some of them are more difficult, I agree. But don't tell me that the visa is the problem. You're going to figure it out if you just go. If you stay where you are researching, oh, how can I get a visa? You're never going to get it. Just go. Become independent. Start your thing on the side. Get what you need to pay your bills, minimum, and go to that country where you want to live. And there you're going to start talking, you're going to start making friends, and you're going to find a way to stay there. How modern lawyers are doing more as consultants. So I don't want to spend a lot of time here. I just want to invite you to Google and research. What are the ways that architects, lawyers, doctors, because I keep listening from my clients, oh, I can't do what you do because I'm a lawyer. Oh, come on, you can make a lot of money. Check LegalZoom. I can give you a list of companies that are making tons of money online in these professions. Different names, does it matter? So founder, freelancer, contractor, project manager, consultant, entrepreneur, solopreneur, how do you want to call yourself? I've called myself pretty much all of these names depending on where I was and what I wanted, right? Consultant, I think, is kind of vague and it's kind of old-fashioned. So people who are in their 60s use this name. If you have started your own company, I think founder is great. CEO, only if you have a bunch of employees. Come on, give me a break. A lot of people calling themselves CEO and it's just them, you know? No. You're a founder. If it's just you, you're a founder. Or a freelancer, you know? I can probably call myself a freelancer. But freelancers are selling their hours, right? Contractors are usually more expert. They have a higher level of education and a higher level of experience, and they can get 6-month contracts. They can get 20-hour contracts because they value their skills more. Maybe it's a psychological problem. Maybe you can be a contractor and you're still calling yourself a freelancer because you think you're not good enough to call yourself a contractor. Project manager, like I said, is in fashion. You're going to have a lot of job opportunities if you start calling yourself project manager. Just go take a course, get certified, and voila, you're a project manager. Entrepreneur, of course, if you started your own business and if you are really one. And companies are looking for entrepreneur employees, people who can solve problems, who bring to their boss solutions. And solopreneur, of course, if you know, you're just one. So I was going to spend more time here. I'm going to fast forward because I don't want to run out of time. This is the best slide, I think, for people. This is where the students there in ESADE loved. So I put some logos here to make it easier for you. And I'm going to publish this in my blog. So global business owners, like I said, is the networking thing. It's in more than 30 countries. I'm the president of GBO in Valencia. If you ever want to come and visit our club, I highly recommend you use GBO as an excuse to travel. So I visited their meetings in Berlin, in Mallorca, in Madrid, in Barcelona, and you get clients there. Wisar is a platform that helps flexible people get flexible jobs in Barcelona, and I'm friends with Sandra, who is the founder of Wisar. It's a very interesting platform. Meetup, like I said, is amazing. WordPress, if you don't have a blog in WordPress, forget about being independent. I mean, okay, you can have a Facebook page or an Instagram page to start, but sooner or later, if it grows a little bit, you're going to need WordPress, because SEO, search engine optimization, you don't need to be any expert. I'm not. I'm a basic knowledge SEO person, but I use WordPress to attract clients. People find me in Google. In the last year and a half, I stopped completely doing things because of my baby. And this is why I'm here, taking myself out of my comfort zone. My baby's with the nanny, and I'm here doing this webinar because I will use this in my WordPress for SEO. So start practicing WordPress. Yoast is a plugin that you use in WordPress to get SEO, especially if you're stupid like me and you're not an SEO expert. Of course, if you're an expert, you don't need me. Evernote. I can't live without Evernote to organize my life. Instagram, WhatsApp, podcasting. Oh my goodness. Lots of people will not talk to you if you don't ask them for an interview. And if you say, can I interview you? Then 90% says yes. And this is an amazing networking tool. Airplane ticket. If you're taking depression pills, stop right now and buy an airplane ticket. It's much better, trust me. And it's gonna do a lot of good. Come meet me here in Thailand. Let's go to Vietnam. Let me introduce you to my independent life. Zoom, this is what we're using right now, and I'm learning, and it seems to be amazing. You have to pay only $40 a month to do webinars, so let's make sure we do at least one every week to make it worthwhile. Igloo is the story I told you about Aussie, the startup here in Chiang Mai that can actually get you a visa to live in Thailand if you associate yourself with them. LinkedIn, of course. Invoice Home is how I invoice all my clients. It's automated. Dropbox, Canva, to name a few. So again, list the companies you want to work with. Follow them. Familiarize yourself with their contract options. If you say that you want to work with, let's say you want to work with Google, familiarize yourself. Is Google open to hiring people like me? Is Google open to hiring, 10 hours a week? Just check, because maybe you have the name of that company in your list and they don't offer what you're looking for. Line up your next contract before you finish the existing one, please. Is your LinkedIn up to date? Is your CV aligned with your LinkedIn? Do you have a cover image that shows what you do? So look at mine. I think it tells what I do, right? That's me coaching a client in the middle of a square in Lisbon. So I'm selling independence and freedom. That's what I coach people. And then, of course, your headline needs to say more than head of marketing. Don't be boring. Companies are looking for interesting people. So career coach, business manager, digital nomad mom, that makes me a little bit more interesting to talk to, maybe. Breathing and writing, because I love meditation and I love writing and sharing. So just make sure you put something there that shows you're a human. That's what I'm trying to say. Think about the city you're going to say you're in. If you're in Valencia, for example, looking for a job, sorry, you're not going to get much. If you want to stay in Spain, put Madrid. But maybe you speak English and you're okay with remote work, so put yourself in London. Why are you going to put yourself in Madrid? So be smart choosing where you are. and get a friend who lives there to get the address for you to put in your CV. Summary. Does it make sense to list your specialties? Yes, it's easier. So just put your about, 4 sentences, list 5 specialties and your other interests. Make sure to list what makes you great. Have you published articles yet on your LinkedIn? How can people know how you think? The more articles you publish, the more people find your LinkedIn, Instagram. How do you give back, help others, and build authority? How can you do that? Like I said, public speaking for public schools, for example. Build your own brand. I'm sure there's a bunch of trainees or interns in your company. You can offer 1 hour per week to teach them something that will give you expertise and visibility in learning. And this is Marcelo Araújo, for example. I did a podcast interview with him. I think it was the most downloaded. People in Africa downloaded the interview with Marcelo. Go figure. And I was always like, well, how did this person find me? It's always because of these things that you produce. So do you have a clean CV? I added a second page with recommendations. A lot of people say don't do that, but I do, because I think that what really sells me is my clients. So I made sure to list some clients and put their email. And the first page, of course, again, summary, specialties, easy to read, never more than a page. So these are some quotes from people that I admire. Agustin is one of my clients. He studies English with us. And he says he's a very successful coach for CEOs in Spain. And he says, your reinvention requires a deep reflection on your strengths and the market possibilities. So think about your strengths. Think about the market possibilities. 2 key attitudes: being humble. If you act like you know everything, forget it. And perseverant. This is Enrique. Enrique is a GPO partner of mine, and he's from Valencia. He was corporate for lots and lots of years. He was director of some successful companies, and then he decided to go independent. And he does M&As, and he's buying, selling companies all over, and he has a great life. And he says, life is wonderful when you take control. Challenge your fears and never surrender. Welcome to the dark side. Enrique is very funny. CEO of Lighthouse. Guilherme, Executive Director, Head of Infrastructure of Liechtenstein Bank Capital Partners in London. This is an example of a person who went independent and decided to go back to employee. Great experience that made me more resilient, and it gave me the opportunity to reflect and understand better my priorities in life. Leadership and entrepreneurship can sometimes be found in the corporate world as well. Look how interesting. So he tried the independent life. He didn't like it. He went back to corporate. But now he's a much better corporate because he exercised all these skills when he was independent that make him a better employee nowadays. It was priceless to experiment a freelancer activity to understand the strength and self-motivation required to go on your own. It's not easy. I never said it was. Nevertheless, being part of a team is a drive that helps me move forward. So this is a client of mine. She preferred not to use her name, but she is working at Jewel Labs. So to finish, before I answer your questions, how can you become even more expert, even more flexible, active, creative, open to learning? How can you do that? How can you vary your sources of income? We talked about this many times. How can you transition in and out of different formats of work contracts? Go back to all the questions that I asked. This recording will be available to you guys. Reflect and answer them. Really sit down, get a cup of coffee, and just answer these questions. Let's talk. Send me WhatsApp. I love answering audio because I'm always with my baby in the stroller, so I'm answering. I love talking to my friends through WhatsApp. Here it is. Shoot me with questions. And I started with this monthly newsletter. I hope you like it. For you to get it, please go on my website, mightypimenta.com, and put your email there so I can include you in the list. So I'm going to click on these questions and answers now. Let me see. I can't see. What is it? Maybe I have to stop sharing. Okay. So I think we don't have any questions here. So guys, if you do have any questions and if I'm seeing things wrong here, please send me your questions and I will make sure to answer each and all of them. I have had lots of fun doing this. I hope you guys have had some fun too. I would love to listen to your feedback, honest feedback. So please tell me 3 things that you really liked and tell me 3 things that you think I can do better next time. Cup and cup, kisses from Thailand. I'm gonna do a foot massage.